we're very 9 to 5 driven, 8 to 5 driven, but maybe if instead of saying, well, I'm not going in the office at all, what if you really need to do 6:30 to 3:30?
Hey everyone, this is The Reset. I'm your host, Letitia Barriola. I'm a career coach here to help you rethink and reframe, reset how you do work. With me now is Denisha Good, an HR professional with 19 years of experience. She has her own business, Relay Resumes, where she's helping people with career services from their LinkedIn profile to their resumes and interviewing. Denisha, welcome.
Glad to be here, Tish. Glad to be here.
Yes, you are full of so much knowledge on a range of topics, but I really want to start with one in particular, which is remote work.
Yes,
It's a
indeed.
hot topic because everybody want to do it. We got used to it, in 2020.
Absolutely.
Up until now. Different companies are changing the way they do work to accommodate remote, but you have a different way of looking at remote work right now, especially for job seekers. Tell us what you think will give people sort of the competitive edge right now.
Really, the competitive edge is flexibility. So willing to come into the office, either on a cutback schedule, so maybe 10 to 2, or even just hybrid where you're in office 3 days of the week, out for 2 days, and just the flexibility of it. A lot of the remote work made it so that we could continue being productive during that time. But at the same time, there are some operational aspects of that too that the business has to think about. So those who have a lease, those businesses that typically have overhead, somehow, some way, those areas, those commercial buildings need to be filled with somebody in some way.
Yeah.
So it's really important to be flexible, and to pay attention. If the job description says remote, but there's a city there, 9 times out of 10, they're going to want you to come into the office at some point in time. So pay attention to that and ask first. Especially if a recruiter reaches out to you, ask them immediately. If remote is really important, cut the time by asking if the position is remote, will remain that way. And that'll help you make the best decision going forward too.
I think I saw a post of yours and it was so simple and so like, oh wow, I never thought of it that way. Where you were like, y'all are tripping. There are jobs available. They're just not remote. And those are going like, not as many people are applying to the in-office jobs. And you're like, y'all need to be looking at these. No one's signing up for this, right? So
Absolutely.
Are you seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so because you can see some of the numbers, so LinkedIn is really good at kind of giving you an idea of how many people applied. But what I've noticed, especially from the recruiter seat, is that when the position is remote, specifically when it says United States. So when it says United States, it's remote in real life, because there's no city attached to it. You can work from anywhere. Awesome. But that also means that job is going to get 1,000, 2,000 resumes, at least a 200 within an hour or so. Of course, because that means there's a larger pool to pull from because it's the entire United States. Whereas some of those same positions that are in office or on site or say hybrid don't have nearly as many applicants. So being flexible is really important, but also in two, there's an opportunity to recreate this landscape. We're very 9 to 5 driven, 8 to 5 driven, but maybe if instead of saying, well, I'm not going in the office at all, what if you really need to do 6:30 to 3:30? You know what I mean? What if it's 7 to 4? What if you're a 10 to 6 type of person? If we introduce those opportunities and the opportunity to be flexible in that way, to kind of work in your peak time or where there's a flexible time where maybe you got to be in the office between 10 and 2, but it can be starting at 6, or you can start at 10. So just even being able to have the back and forth. Yes, we know what you don't want to do. What would you like? What would be suitable? Because on the same time, there is a large group of folks, particularly those in the associate level. So I'm going to say probably in the first 3 to 4 years, 2 to 5 year area, who kind of want to go back in the office because those are the newer associates. And they kind of like, well, I don't really have a mentor sitting at home. And that's very true. I think a lot of us that want to do that remote work, we're 35, 40 and up. Well, we've had that mentorship, so we can kind of use that autonomy, find the problem, consult and go on. But there's a large group of kids, and I say kids, showing my age a little bit, that still need to have continuous and ongoing validation. Not necessarily validation, but it's like, nope, yeah, that's right, or no, move that a little to the left. They're not getting that. And they don't know how to ask for it when they do come in this space either. So it's like, we got to rethink about this. So, and then too, if they are wanting to come into the office at least for a minimal amount of time, a flex amount of time, and they do need those older employees or those most seasoned and experienced employees to provide some of that mentorship, because that's what they want to come in for.
It's interesting when you talk about 35 and up, it's because it's like we got kids, some of us, right? We're trying to make dinner at a certain time. You know, we've been leaving the house for 20 odd years going to work. Like when we found this opportunity to sit at home and work, we were like, okay, we want to do this forever. Like this is it. So it's like this conversation is kind of for like the older millennial who is really the people talking like, if it's not remote, I'm not with it. You know, like I'm looking for remote only. The Gen Xers, maybe they're more open to going in, maybe full-time, part-time, whatever. But the older millennials, especially entering this job market in 2023, I love how you're telling them, like, listen, rethink how you're looking at remote, you know, like be flexible with your day. Can you go in for a little bit? And don't be so just not marking off these jobs that don't have remote, because they're sitting there waiting for people like them to apply. And they're sitting there just, you know, waiting for people to come in the office. And that's good money positions. Those are higher level positions, I imagine. Are you seeing, you know, upper management or leadership positions that are, you know, requiring people to come in the office?
Yeah, a lot of manager level seats, supervisory level seats are asking or looking more at a more hybrid setting. And it makes sense. If you are the leader, those folks need to see your face in some way, shape, or form. But then too, if a lot of us in that same age group have a little something to say, we all do when you get to that age about these kids these days, they don't socialize the same way. So you have an expectation of you out of them, and they haven't been in those spaces, not only because of the pandemic, but because they don't have to be. So work was for us, it made us intentionally come and socialize. Well, these kids don't have to. So now you're asking them to come in a setting where socialization matters, networking matters, talking to people matters. Nobody cares who you don't like. We got something to do here, but they're not used to doing it.
Dang.
So who's going to teach them?
Oh, especially when we sitting at home.
And so it's not necessarily you sit down and you teach them, you come and you be. And so then they understand how to move. They understand how to read the room and operate in those spaces by watching watching us just do. But those of us who have been there, done that, well, they haven't. So we got to go back if we want to have that relationship be a certain way, if we want to be able to delegate these tasks and feel confident in them. Well, we build that confidence by showing and teaching. It has to be a little bit more hands-on, especially for that group. At this point,
I'm not even, it is bad. I'm not even thinking about them, but I should be. They are the future, right?
I mean, if you want to take your hands off of it, you got to give it to you, either automate it or you pass it on. Well, you can't hold on to it if you want to pass it on. You have to teach it. And you have to teach it the way they learn.
I want to end with this question. I'm really curious what you think. You know, is remote work here to stay?
It is, but everything won't be remote. And I think there's going to come a time where there is some more process and procedure put around it. I think hybrid is more permanent. Some roles will be remote. Some will have options. Some companies have the bandwidth to be able to support all the people in all the places, because it's not just technology, it's taxes, it's a lot of stuff that every company is not set to handle right now. So they may expand it, or they may keep it hybrid to keep that level of their operations cost efficient to monitor.
Okay. Tanisha, you're going to be back. So I thank you for this topic and getting us up on game about remote work, why we should be open, especially my older millennials. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.